came over me. Who am I? It was wonderful. I loved every minute.
Sally Field has always been candid, fearless, and unafraid to speak her truth. From her early television days to her Oscar-winning performances, she's captivated audiences with both talent and authenticity. But behind the glamour and accolades, Sally has a side of herself that few ever see. Her personal desires, crushes, and the actors who ignited her imagination over the years. At 78, Sally finally opened up about a topic most celebrities would shy away from: the 7 actors she secretly fantasized about during her career. These weren't just fleeting crushes. They were men she admired, respected, and in some cases found irresistibly magnetic. For decades, she kept these thoughts private, navigating the complicated balance of Hollywood relationships, professional boundaries, and public perception. Sally Field's journey to Hollywood stardom began long before the bright lights and red carpets. Growing up in Pasadena, California, she was a young girl with big dreams and an insatiable curiosity about the world around her. From an early age, she was drawn to the magic of movies and television, not just as a form of entertainment, but as a doorway into lives she could only imagine. As she watched classic films, she found herself captivated by the actors on screen, their presence, their charisma, and yes, their undeniable charm. Even as a teenager, Sally's admiration for certain actors went beyond professional respect. She remembers being struck by their physicality, their confidence, and the ease with which they commanded attention. These early crushes were formative, shaping the way she thought about romance, desire, and the qualities she would later seek in colleagues and companions. They also inspired her acting. Sally noticed how these men could communicate emotion without a single word, and she wanted to learn the same skill. There was a sense of admiration intertwined with fascination, a spark that was both innocent and deeply human. By the time she began working professionally in television, Sally was already navigating the complex world of Hollywood. She landed her first notable role on Gidget, and soon after, she was a household name with The Flying Nun. Amidst the pressures of auditions, long hours, and the constant scrutiny of the public, Sally's personal feelings and early crushes remained private, tucked away behind her professional focus. Yet those fantasies were never far from her mind. They offered moments of escape, a private space where admiration could coexist with the realities of a demanding career. These early crushes weren't just fleeting thoughts, they were teachers. They helped Sally understand what drew people together, what charisma looked like, and how desire could be a powerful motivator both on and off screen. She realized that attraction was not just physical, but layered with personality, humor, and the way someone carried themselves. Observing these actors inspired her to cultivate her own presence, to work on confidence, and to embrace the qualities she admired in others. By the mid-1960s, as Sally's career was gaining momentum, the men she had admired from afar began to feel like a blueprint for what she might encounter in the real Hollywood. She had grown up idolizing actors whose lives seemed glamorous and untouchable, yet the experiences she would have on set showed her that reality was far more complex. Some were charming and kind, others aloof and distant. Her early crushes became a lens through which she could interpret the often confusing social dynamics of the industry. In these formative years, Sally learned to balance admiration with professionalism. She understood that her fantasies were private, personal experiences, yet they also helped shape her perspective on relationships and self-confidence. These early crushes, coupled with her growing skill as an actress, set the stage for the stories she would one day tell about the 7 actors she most wanted to be with. A candid reflection that would surprise fans, yet feel deeply authentic. Even as Sally Field stepped into the spotlight and became one of Hollywood's most beloved stars, these early crushes remained a quiet, guiding force, reminders of the young girl who had first dreamed of love, talent, and the thrill of being captivated by someone truly extraordinary. As Sally Field's career grew in the late 1960s and 1970s, she found herself surrounded by some of the most charismatic actors in Hollywood. These were not the distant faces on a movie poster, but colleagues she shared long days, intimate scenes, and the pressures of production with. It was in this environment that admiration began to intertwine with personal attraction, sparking fantasies that remained deeply private for decades. Working on set brought Sally into close proximity with actors whose talent was matched only by their presence. Some had a magnetic energy that seemed to fill every room, making it impossible not to notice them. Others displayed a subtle charm, a quiet confidence that drew people in. Sally, ever perceptive, noticed not just how they looked, but how they moved, how they laughed, how they interacted with others. These moments created a kind of silent chemistry, small glances, shared jokes, and fleeting touches that added fuel to the fantasies she quietly nurtured. One memorable aspect of on-set chemistry was its unpredictability. Some actors could appear utterly professional during long shooting days, yet in unscripted moments, their true charm revealed itself. A shared meal in the craft services area, a playful argument over a scene, or a late-night rehearsal could transform admiration into a tantalizing personal fascination. Sally learned to savor these moments while maintaining the balance required by a professional environment, a delicate dance between desire and decorum. The emotional intensity of acting also heightened attraction. Scenes that demanded vulnerability, whether romantic, dramatic, or tense, created unique connections. Sally often found herself captivated by how some actors could convey emotion with such authenticity. Witnessing this skill firsthand stirred feelings that went beyond professional respect. It was not simply admiration for talent. It was fascination with the person behind the performance, the real individual whose energy and presence lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. Sally also noticed that chemistry was rarely symmetrical. Some actors exuded magnetism naturally, and it was easy to feel drawn to them without expecting reciprocation. Others, aware of their influence, could amplify the tension in subtle ways, whether intentionally or not. These dynamics created a rich tapestry of emotions, fueling her imagination and providing moments of both delight and frustration. Through it all, Sally remained grounded. She recognized that Hollywood could blur the line between fantasy and reality. Professional boundaries were paramount, yet the experiences offered a safe space to explore her own desires and reactions. The actors she admired became mirrors, reflecting qualities she found compelling and inspiring in herself. They shaped her understanding of attraction, intimacy, and emotional resonance, lessons that extended beyond the screen and into her personal life. By the end of this period, Sally had amassed a collection of private stories and secret fascinations. These early on-set crushes, though never acted upon, became part of the tapestry of her life in Hollywood. They offered insight into her own desires, the qualities she valued in others, and the courage it took to acknowledge her feelings in an industry often quick to judge women for expressing attraction. These encounters, filled with laughter, tension, and unspoken longing, laid the groundwork for the candid revelations she would make decades later. For Sally Field, on-set chemistry was more than a fleeting attraction. It was a formative part of her understanding of love, desire, and the complex interplay between personal longing and professional life. By the time Sally Field reached the height of her career in the late 1970s and early 1980s, her private fantasies had become an intricate part of her Hollywood experience. Unlike casual crushes from her youth, these feelings were intensified by close interactions with co-stars, directors, and the men she encountered daily on set. While she maintained professionalism, the experiences lingered in her mind, quietly shaping her understanding of attraction and desire. Sally has always been candid about her thoughts, but even she admits that discussing whom she wanted to be with most was long considered taboo in Hollywood. The industry often scrutinizes female stars for expressing interest in men, and she knew revealing such feelings publicly could overshadow her accomplishments. Yet, in private, she allowed herself to explore these emotions, understanding that attraction was natural, human, and an undeniable part of life. These secret fascinations were fueled not only by physical allure, but by personality, charisma, and wit. Sally noticed how humor could deepen attraction, how confidence could captivate, and how vulnerability could draw her in unexpectedly. The actors she admired professionally often embodied these qualities, blending talent with presence in ways that sparked both admiration and longing. She describes moments where a simple glance, a subtle gesture, or a shared laugh left a lasting impression, moments that lingered far beyond the confines of a scene. Sally also reflects on the complexity of harboring such fantasies in a professional environment. Acting requires trust, vulnerability, and intense collaboration, yet feelings of desire must be carefully navigated. She learned to compartmentalize, cherishing her private thoughts while maintaining boundaries and respect. It was a delicate balance, one that required emotional intelligence and self-awareness, particularly in an industry where rumor and perception could spread quickly. Her candidness about these experiences, revealed later in life, sheds light on the emotional realities of being a female actor in Hollywood. Sally acknowledges that while some fantasies remained purely personal, they were also empowering. They affirmed her humanity and her right to desire, challenging the notion that women in the public eye must suppress natural feelings to maintain an image. In a world often dominated by male perspectives, her honesty offered a refreshing glimpse into female desire, curiosity, and personal agency. Furthermore, these secret fascinations influenced how Sally approached her work. The actors she admired became benchmarks for intensity, chemistry, and authenticity. Scenes that required emotional honesty were enriched by the personal impressions she carried with her. Her admiration and desire were transformed into fuel for performance, enhancing her ability to connect with characters and audiences alike. Ultimately, Sally's private confessions reveal a deeply human aspect of celebrity life. Beneath the awards, red carpets, and public appearances exists a woman capable of longing, attraction, and personal reflection. Her willingness to speak openly, decades later, challenges Hollywood norms and encourages a more nuanced understanding of female desire. In reflecting on these secret fantasies, Sally Field demonstrates that even in an industry fixated on image and propriety, there is room for honesty, vulnerability, and self-discovery. Her candid revelations remind us that attraction is not a scandal. It is a universal experience, one that shaped her career, her relationships, and her perspective on life in the spotlight. As Sally Field entered the later stages of her career, she began to reflect on the experiences, attractions, and secret fantasies that had quietly shaped her life in Hollywood. By speaking openly about the 7 actors she had wanted to be with, she offered not just confession, but a meditation on desire, honesty, and personal growth. This chapter of her story isn't about scandal. It's about understanding the ways in which attraction, admiration, and human curiosity influence both personal and professional life. Sally's reflections reveal a deep sense of self-awareness. She recognizes that harboring fantasies was never about entitlement or expectation. It was about acknowledging her own feelings in a world where women were often discouraged from doing so. Hollywood, with its relentless gaze and judgment, can make even natural emotions feel risky. Yet Sally navigated this landscape with a combination of discretion and authenticity, allowing herself private space while maintaining professionalism. Her candor decades later shows a remarkable confidence, the ability to own her story without fear of censure. One of the most important lessons Sally shares is the distinction between desire and action. She emphasizes that attraction doesn't always require fulfillment. Some of her most vivid fantasies never led to relationships, and some never needed to. The experience itself, the admiration, the longing, the playful imaginings, was enough. For Sally, these moments were as instructive as they were exhilarating. They taught her about the qualities she valued in others, the ways in which chemistry could shape collaboration, and the importance of recognizing her own emotional responses without judgment. This honesty has broader implications for understanding women in Hollywood. Often, the industry prefers that female stars appear emotionally neutral, keeping private feelings hidden to avoid gossip or scandal. Sally's revelations challenge that norm, asserting that women are allowed to have desires, to be curious, and to acknowledge attraction, all without it diminishing their professionalism or accomplishments. By sharing her experiences, she reframes what it means to be candid and human in a space that often rewards perfection and poise over authenticity. Sally also reflects on how these private fascinations influenced her craft. Desire, admiration, and emotional connection are central to acting, and the lessons she learned from her personal feelings enriched her performances. Her ability to channel vulnerability, humor, and intimacy into her roles became stronger because of her attentiveness to these internal experiences. In a way, her secret fantasies became tools for empathy and artistry, deepening the authenticity of her work. Finally, embracing truth, both about herself and her feelings, has allowed Sally to live with a sense of liberation. She no longer feels the need to hide what was once private. By articulating these stories, she demonstrates courage, self-acceptance, and a profound understanding of the human heart. Fans and fellow actors alike gain insight into the fact that even stars navigate the same feelings of desire, attraction, and curiosity as anyone else. In the end, Sally Field's revelations are a celebration of honesty, human complexity, and personal growth. They remind us that admiration, desire, and emotional curiosity are not weaknesses. They are part of the richness of life. For Sally, acknowledging these truths has not only illuminated her own journey, but has also offered a model for embracing vulnerability and authenticity in an often unforgiving industry.